Department of Medicine in Sunshine Hospital in Chipoli. I'm basically my background. I'm a dropout from chemical engineering IIT Chennai, and my father was very keen that I should become a doctor. So it is because of his blessings that I'm here as a doctor. No regrets, but nonetheless, it's been a beautiful journey, and I thought that I would like to share the things that made everybody a major global concern. If you're aware of the fact that coronavirus it started as an epidemic in a place called Wuhan city. It started in the wet market of the Wuhan city, and then it spread from there to almost 214 countries all over the world. Now, why this has become a matter of global concern? Because the outbreak has reached unprecedented limits, and the toll that it's taking in terms of mortality is pretty high. We are yet to see the actual things that have happened in Italy. We have already seen the news that shows that how many cases have been happening and how many deaths have been happening. The fatality rate is being so high. So how does it concern the Indian scenario? So the most important thing is that this virus you need to understand. I will just give you a basic hint from this. I would say is an envelope that has come from the post office of God. Nobody knows why and how. See, when this thing comes, why the virus is baffling the entire scientific community all over the globe is that every basic virus has an outer coating called as the DNA, which is called as the inscription. This inscription, you read it, you are able to understand it, and you are able to decode it, and you create a sequence, and you are able to create vaccines out of it. So we are not new to this because this coronavirus had been there. It's a zoonotic, it's found in animals, and very rarely does it get transferred into the humans. Now, why this has happened? Because no virus, which all the animal kingdom will have this sort of coronavirus. You name it, bats and snakes, and all those animals do have them. But to transfer it to humans, they require an intermediate. So nobody is still able to understand what that intermediate host was. So they have found that in the wet market of Wuhan that the chrysanthemum bat. This is one variety of bat which was able to transfer this. So we are almost very close to understanding that the intermediate host was a bat. But how it got on to the humans is still baffling, and it is still troubling the scientific community. So this virus has an outer coating called as the DNA and an inner coating called as the RNA. And the virus is actually a dead material. It is not a live material. This material gets into the system and then multiplies and creates havoc. So what is surprising about this is that this time the outer coating, the DNA, is not there at all. This virus has come without a coating. So why we are not able to create? Because earlier the same coronavirus came in the form of the Spanish flu. It came in the Middle East, acute respiratory distress syndrome, and it came as a bubonic plague. So many things have happened, but still, though we were able to create vaccines for those coronaviruses, but why we were not able to create a vaccine for this particular thing and still baffling, no medicine is still available for this, is that because we don't have the inscription. So when you don't have an inscription, when you don't have a proper address to this, you'll not be able to read it. So that's why we are battling with it. Now, most important thing is that how does it affect? How does it get into the system and affect the human body? Most important thing is that when this gets into the system is through a mode of infection, through transmission. The transmission could happen through the droplets, and the droplets could come out from the humans in the form of cough, in the form of sneeze, or in the form of talking. So whenever you are talking, or whenever you are coughing, when you are sneezing, this particular virus comes out. The most important why we are worried that this virus has a predilection only for not only for the lung tissue, but it has affiliation for other places also. So the entry gate is what we call as the AC inhibitor gate, which we call the angiotensin converting enzyme receptor 2. So this is where the gateway is, the virus gets into your system. And this is abundantly found into your respiratory tract system. And it's also found in your kidneys, it's also found in your liver. So the thing is that this virus gets into the system, and after getting access to the system, suppose if it is to the respiratory system, we very well know how the respiratory system is well defined in terms you get cough, you will get sputum, you will get phlegm. So this is the host response. So when something from foreign is getting into the system, your body responds in terms of producing what we call the phlegm or the sputum. So this virus cannot just fly in the air. This virus requires a gel. So this virus gets into the phlegm that is coming from our body and the distance it can travel. It also depends upon the individual force of talking, individual force of breathing, coughing, sneezing. So this how the droplets can go even up to the, it can go up to almost around 10 feet. It can travel to. So that's why this droplet, once it touches this any surface, it sticks. So once it sticks, the chances of contamination are pretty high, very high. Even if you're talking, even if I have an aerosol spray, I may be able to, give a whole lot of viruses that can come into from the mouth. But we do not know what is the contagion in that. Some people may have a very tenacious sputum coming from the mouth, or some people may have only a liquid-like thing coming from the mouth. So we do not know what is the concentration of this particular virus, in how much of it is being stuck, what are the concentration into the gel. So we're still at a loss to understand this, how the infection is spreading so fast among humans, that just by the contact, just by talking, or being in the closest proximity. So the contagion that is happening now is only basically because we are not able to keep the distance that was required, because we know it has attacked the respiratory system, and when it attacks the respiratory system, it can affect anybody. When you cough, when you sneeze, when you're in close proximity. That's why the distance of 2 feet and 6 meters has not just been told like that, because this droplet is little thick. It cannot travel that heavily outside, so it has to drop somewhere. So when it drops, it touches the surface. And our ignorance on that part, that many people in the beginning were not aware of the fact that this will spread like this, attached to the surfaces, or shaking hands, or hugging, so people were totally lost about it. That's what happened in Italy. So fast it spread in that place. So the lessons from this is that when these droplets come out of the system, that they can stick to or the face, or they can stick to any of the surfaces. Lot of juices around that it sticks to this particular surface and that particular surface, metal, fabric, and it may stay for long hours. There's no justification as of now that how many hours it is there. It is just a hearsay news. But one thing is more important than that, as long as it is sticking to the surface and you come in touch with it, for example, you have accidentally touched it, and then you touch your face, because see, the respiratory tract starts right from your nostrils, from your nose, then your sinuses, and then it goes down to your breathing area, the trachea, the lungs. So the closest proximity you bring the virus to, it can be inhaled, or you bring it into your mouth, you don't wash your hands, again it will go. So this is a very invisible enemy. You see, you don't have anything on hand, but yet you are supposed to wash your hands. So this is so important that this virus, once it gets into the system, it creates a host response in terms of the phlegm. Now, the other aspect of it that is that it not only affects the lungs, the severity of what we are seeing now, why is it that many people are succumbing so fast? Because the respiratory system is getting involved. Secondly, the heart is getting involved. The kidneys are getting injured. Okay? And ultimately, the patient is going into hypoxia. Hypoxia is low oxygen saturation that is in the system. Normally, they are supposed to maintain almost around 95% and above. But all these patients who we are seeing are coming with these sort of symptoms, which I'll elucidate as we go on. So mainly, that this is a respiratory virus that attacks the lungs. So how we will be able to help ourselves in terms of reducing the spread? So that is our second concern. Now, what is so important about this virus is that the incubation period. The incubation period starts from 5.1 day. It can last from 2 to 14 days. The symptoms can start appearing 2 days prior to the onset. So we are still at a loss to understand the asymptomatic patients who have no symptoms at all, but still are capable of spreading. Even if you have the symptoms starting from the second day, which will last to 8 days. So we do not still understand that which period, which phase of the day the infectivity is so high. So it is approximately taken as 2 to 8. Now the other part of that, suppose if this incubation period crosses after 14 days, so is there a chance of a reoccurrence? Yes, there is a different chance of reoccurrence. It all depends upon your own immune system. Now how vulnerable you are, especially the age, the people who are at risk of developing this is 60 years and above. They are the most vulnerable lot. And children below 10 years, they are the most vulnerable. So this age difference, so less than 10 years and more than 60 years, these are the ones who are going to suffer the most, and that's been what we see the consensus all around the globe. That's why the World Health Organization has declared this as a public health emergency concern all around the globe. So what are the things that are going to cause this sort of virus to produce more problems? One is the infectivity, the incubation period, and from there on, how does it affect the elderly? The most important lot are the elderly with comorbid conditions, especially the ones. Comorbid conditions are the one a person who is having one disease but followed with other comorbidities, like he has hypertension, he has cardiac ailment, he has a kidney problem. So these are the comorbid conditions that the patients are already having. So these are the people who are more vulnerable. So now, how do we identify? That these are the patients who are going to are the ones who are going to spread? So what we call as suspects. So most importantly, you need to identify the suspects. Now, how do you know who is a suspect? A suspect is the one who has certain signs like fever. Because if you see the symptoms that are coming to this chronology, the first and foremost prominent thing that they found was the fever. Then they found that it was the sore throat. Then they found that it was the shortness of breath. Then they found that people were getting very fatigued. Then they found that the patients are having some sort of diarrhea, unexplained diarrhea. So, and then prior to the onset of the symptoms, there is a report where they have said that early suspicion can go when the patient is not able to have taste, which is called the dysgeusia. When the patient is not able to have feeling for sweet and salt. In Indian scenario, they are able to taste the khatta, but they are not able to appreciate the sweet and salt. So this is just, even before the onset of symptoms, you can suspect that this particular person is going to be COVID. So loss of taste, loss of taste to salt and sweet, khatta remaining, and loss of sense of smell. In our scenario, there may be people who are allergic to certain cold, dust and viruses, but they may not be able to feel it. Or elderly people, they may not be able to respond to the smell. But suddenly you have a loss of this sensation, like you're not able to smell things. Somebody is sprayed a perfume and you're not able to smell it. You're smoking around with agarbatti and nobody's able to appreciate it. So this is the first thing you should keep your mind alert, that this is happening much prior to the onset of the symptoms. So this is what it is. Now the children below 10 years, especially the ones who are being fed, they become very irritable, they don't take the feeds, then they may not have fever and cough, but they may have what we call as breathing difficulty. So breathing difficulty, how we have defined is that, suppose if we have a suspect, his breathing will be normal. The normal breathing is around, the respiratory rate is around 14. 14 to 16 is just normal. But anything that is crossing more than that, for example, the cutoff which they are given for elderly people is almost around, if it is beyond more than 24. So that's where, if you start breathing heavily, 24, then you know it. So the suspect is the one who has fever plus symptoms of respiratory, cough, sore throat, shortness of breath. Now, how to judge they have shortness of breath? There is a very simple methodology which you can do. One is that you can ask the patient to take a count of 10 in one breath, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I may be able to do it comfortably. But the one who is affected with COVID-19, he will say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You know, they cannot hold their breath even for this number of time. So that shows the acute setting of the problem. So if they are not able to hold their breath, so if they are not able to hold their breath, that's one thing. Now, what are the other best way to judge that the oxygen saturations in the blood systems are not being maintained? The most simplest thing is the pulse oximeter. The pulse oximeter is easily available, which you can buy it from any of the medical shops, and that will, I feel that this is a must device for every home in this scenario. Everybody, every home should buy it. But be careful, if you are putting it on the finger and checking it for everybody at home, make sure that you sterilize and give it to the next person. Just without sterilizing, don't give on checking randomly, because that is good. Again, if the person is already infected, so again you may transfer it. So make sure that it is clean and then it is transferred. So that's important. Now, what is important with the pulse oximeter is that the pulse oximeter tells you how the shortness of breath is developing. For example, at room air, if you are able to maintain a saturation of around 95%, no problem, you are fine. But once it touches 94, then you are in trouble, because that's where it's all starts, because the cutoff is 94% for COVID patients. And then it can go on to more serious problem, it may reach to 90. You may not be able to feel it, but when they start doing the daily course, just moving around to the toilet, getting up from the sofa and walking, coming, and that's the time they start feeling breathless. So that's when you check up at that time, if you find the saturations are dropping. Now you need to keep monitoring. Once 94 happens, from there on, you need to be more careful, keep your ears alert. So it should go, suppose it's going to 90, still they are managing. They are comfortable, they don't complain much. But once the saturation starts falling to 80, it's from 90 to 85, then 80, and that's the worst case scenario. In that sort of a setting, what needs to be done when the saturations are falling so rapidly? Most importantly, that person requires oxygen, nothing else. I'll be telling you how we will be able to design a protocol in this society, so that in case of any emergency that comes in, how you will be able to react, take help immediately, and then be shifted to the hospital. So that's going to pay off, because even if you're going blindly, taking the patient running, he may suffer on the way itself to the hospital. If his saturations fall pretty low, his BP will fall down, he may have a cardiac arrest. So make sure that what is required to be given, that can be made ready in this place itself before you shift the patient. Don't try to get emotional and get panicky and shift the patient. What you need to do is that here, what applies more is not the medicine, it's the common sense. That's what is going to save. So in this common sense, does not say that you should just rush. No, just help the patient. How you could help the patient? Check with the pulse oximeter first. You look at the saturations, keep monitoring. Patient not comfortable, patient is breathing heavily. So once it reaches to 90, they start breathing a little heavily. You are able to hear them, short breaths. When it comes to around 85, they will be using their muscles. If you look at them, so they are using these accessory muscles. For children, how to find out that they are breathing heavily? You can just look at the ribs. There will be indrawing of the ribs. It will be more of like, if you find the ribs like this, the muscle will move more inside. So that's where you can understand that the child is breathing laboriously. So that's the saturation cutoff that's important to identify that this person is very serious and needs to be shifted immediately. So 85, don't sit at home. Make sure first give oxygen if you have it here and then shift the patient. Because now the hospital scenario is too bad. All the hospitals are full. I am not sure that anybody is going to get any help if you go right away now, because there are many who are waiting outside the hospital but not able to get oxygen. So what we were able to get abundantly free by God, we didn't appreciate it, but now people are coming to pay lakhs to buy the oxygen. So that's a very pitiable situation, and in India we are going through a very tough phase now, because another 10 days from now, the balloon is going to explode. This is a warning time. If we don't wake up now, we are going to have too many casualties. Unprecedented in history that you cannot imagine, that it will be like a wave. It will take a lot of elderly people. So certain things need to be set on priority list, that how we are going to save this sort of a tsunami that is going to come and hurt everybody. Within seconds people can go away. We have been watching that. So how best we could help ourselves are very important things now, to put everything in the right perspective. The lockdown period was a good time, but it didn't serve our purpose, because our epidemiologists had a different perspective of things. It is not like China, like hey, you have one gun and everybody comes in line. Here it's not like that. Here we need to discipline people. Many people are not guided on that front. And then you expect that after the lockdown, it was all merry. Everybody went right into the supermarkets, functions were there, and relatives were coming to meet each other. And there's too many gatherings. Still that's baffling, I'm telling you, because the cases are going to go on and on. We are in the third phase. The epidemiologists thought that if we let the people come out, so we will create what we call the herd immunity. But maybe right in starting it a little early, or we could have prolonged the period of lockdown, that is still questionable. Because with herd immunity, it has to go through the young people. This virus gets weakened when it comes to people whose immune is good. So people between 10 years and 40 years, their immunes are very good. So this virus has to be transmitted to these young people. And when it becomes weak, then it transfers to the other people. It's less infective, less dangerous. The mortality rate, the death rate is going to be pretty low when it is transferred through the herd immunity. But that was what we believed in. But one thing which we lost over the period of time is that we forget to understand the concept of home quarantine. That's where we were lost. We were only told to stay at home, but we were not told what are the disciplinary things which you need to adapt at home. What are things you need to keep ready at home? How are the approaches that you could make? So those are the things where we lost on. The home quarantine effect was not elucidated properly. Just stay away from it. They started telling the concept of social distancing. Social distancing, if I don't want to talk to anybody, I can turn my face away. If I don't want to greet anybody, I will not greet him. But the actual thing is that physical distancing, that's where we lost. The physical distancing was more emphatically to be emphasized that this is important rather than social distancing. So initially the wrong word was used, people were not able to understand what social distancing was, and now they have realized that physical distancing is so important. So a minimum gap of 6 feet is what is our requisite. So that is important. So now how do you identify in the children? Like as I said, we have found the suspect case. Now the probable cases are the ones whom the COVID testing has been done, but it's inconclusive. Then third, we have the confirmed cases in which we have confirmed through the laboratory test. Okay. Now laboratory test, everybody's panicking that we need to get it done. I don't think so. Nobody needs to run. Unless and until the symptoms are troubling you, then only you're supposed to go. Till the symptoms don't come into you, please don't panic. Because most of the results, if you do what we are finding now, there are 2 ways of doing this test. One is that we take the nasal swab, then we take the oropharyngeal swab, and then we do a blood test. Okay. So the World Health Organization has confirmed that 30 to 35% of the results will be misleading or false positive. So it is already there because there is no particular standardization of the kits which we use. That's why the government had it in its hand that people should not do it randomly and get confused and run to the hospitals. So that's the reason everything has to be standardized in such a way so the tests that need to be done to confirm. The fastest which we are able to do is through the chest CT scan. That is called as the high resolution CT scan of the chest, because this can immediately give us the changes that can happen into the lung tissue. By the time we wait for the results to come, by the time we understand that what's happening with him, so we have understood now the most important thing to identify. If you have a pulse oximeter, if the saturations are falling, you need to come to the hospital. The protocol will say that we need to first go for the HRCT test. Once you can confirm that the HRCT test is showing signs of COVID-19, you have a CORAD score. The CORAD score, in that which all the radiologists are keeping the CORAD score to tell you the severity of the problem. If it is less than 2, you don't have it. If it is 3, you are in the border. It is 4 and 5, you are definitely happy. So people should not get carried away that my CT scan is just normal. Please look at the CORAD score. That is important. Once you see at the score, you will be able to get an understanding that where you stand actually. You may be misled that by saying that everything is normal. No, it's not normal. There are many people who may have symptoms, but the scans are not normal. Totally asymptomatic, but still when we did the scans, we found that these changes are there. So these are the people who need to be immediately admitted, and then we need to, follow the protocols of COVID management in the hospital. So this is so important.
Maybe we'll ask questions for audience. Your school group is here.
No, because they should understand, because if they will simply run for tests, and this is important.
So maybe you can ask questions for the audience. We have audience. You can ask questions if they have any.
Yeah.
Because we have it's a 40 minutes call.
Yeah, I'm just coming to the more finer points of this is that another part of that, oxygen cylinders which are available outside, you can buy them from the, from the companies, or if you need help, you need to take it from the hospitals, or there are some agents like Philips company and all that, they are supplying it. So they are called as oxygen concentrators. You have those cylinders, but you need those oxygen concentrators are much easy to carry and supply. So I personally feel now what needs to be done now in this particular scenario. If you are living in a very close gated community, certain precautions to be taken right away is that physical distancing is the top priority in anybody's mind. Hand hygiene is the top priority in anybody's mind. Carry sanitizers wherever you are stepping out of your home. Within the home, you need not keep rubbing your hand with the sanitizer. It doesn't serve the purpose, because your immune is dependent upon the ecological balance which you have, because you have been living in this earth, on this soil. The viruses and the bacteria are a common part of your body. They are required for the system. You will probably bring it down if you don't keep the natural things that are there to be stuck to your hands. If you don't have that balance, then your immunity may go down. So when the immunity goes down, you are more prone for it. So how will we be able to prevent this from disturbing our immunity? So the most top priority, as I said, that you need to keep this in mind, that how to improve your immunity. That's the most important thing. Now many people are asking, is it food and everything? No, it's not just not food. Most important is that in Wuhan, all the people who were living there, when they found that the vitamin D levels were pretty low, and that's why most of the elderly people succumbed. Most of the people succumbed. And why this is happening, that once we are away from God's nature, the more the suffering. You need to come into the environment. You need to sit in the sunlight. Which sunlight? In the morning from 7 to 9 is the most ideal sunlight. Just expose your hands and feet for 10 minutes. You don't need to show your face and body. 10 minutes is what is required. Just expose your hands for 10 minutes. If you want to increase your vitamin D through diet, there are many ways. You need to have around 6 boiled eggs every day. You have 6 glasses of milk, 9 pieces of cheese, 2 big salmon fishes, and you have to have good amount of steaks, then you will get almost around 1000 units of vitamin D. But by God's grace, if you just sit in the sunlight for 10 minutes, it's 3000 units without eating anything. Without eating anything. And it's so important. And now in this phase, what we need to do is that improve your immune. The best way to improve your immune is through foods. Have a proteinaceous diet. Make sure that eat fruits that are available during the season, not the off-season fruits. What's available in nature during the season that will boost your immunity. Dry fruits will definitely boost your immunity. Olives will definitely boost your immunity. And physical activity. You need to be active. If you are active, your immune system is kept intact. If you are not going to do any exercise, if you're just going to be idle, it's not going to improve the immunity, because immunity requires good amount of blood circulation for the cell production. And if the cells are not being produced for the immune system, then you're more prone for this. So make sure that important priority is that you need to have sunlight, adequate sunlight. Hydration is important in the elderly. So please make sure that it is 2.5 to 3 liters is what is the requisite, because 2.5 liters is almost what we lose out throughout the day. So that much of positive balance need to come back to the system. Except for people who have a cardiac ailment, they need to, or people who have been affected with the kidneys, they are the ones who need to reduce this one. But important thing is that they need to be hydrated, because in those patients who they found, they did the autopsies of all the patients who died because of COVID-19. Hypercoagulability was the main concern, and that was secondary to dehydration. If you are not hydrating properly, the blood has chances to coagulate, and that's why in all the lungs and the tissues in the internal part, autopsies found that there was only clotting. So this is one thing that was very much related. Now, what are the precautions one could take at home front and in a gated community? The first is the checkpoint. The biggest debacle which happened unfortunately in our city was that we knew that this was coming from the passports. We never had any checkpoint at the passports. We woke up to the situation very late. If it was checked at the airports itself, and the people, the travelers were quarantined in and around the airport for 3 days and checked properly and sent, it would have spread down. But that didn't happen, unfortunately. And these people landed up and then they started spreading to the security person, to the servants, to the relatives, and from there on now we are in such a mess. So early quarantine was so important, which was not done. Now second aspect is that in a society, if you are living, now how to go about is the checkpoint. Make sure a checkpoint is created where you have a tunnel made of sodium hyperchloride solution, because this can disinfect any surface, any surface. So you have washerwomen coming in, you have maids coming in, you have iron man bringing the ironing clothes, you have milk vendors, you have grocery people coming in, you have Swiggy and all those things. Make sure that these people go through the tunnel. They can handle the things to you. So whatever the surface is getting disinfected with this sort of thing will prevent it. The risk can be stopped right at the gate. So it is mandatory that you create that sort of a tunnel so that all these vendors go through that, or any parcel that is coming through it can be disinfected and brought in. So the chances for transmission will be pretty low once you reach home. Now many people are getting too panicky in terms that, if I have contacted something from outside, how do I go about it? The funny part of this thing is that you can easily get this washed off with your soap water or alcohol-based solution. But once it gets into your system, we don't have a solution. That's the most pathetic part of this. So you needn't be too worried about, how to go about it at home front. Simple things are enough. Like if you can just put your clothes into the soap water, that's fine enough. So make sure that if you're traveling outside, spend quite a number of time outside, or walk into the malls, or walk into make sure the first remove your clothes and put them in the bucket in the soap water. Keep the soap water bucket at home. So the moment you come in, just remove your socks, remove your clothes and put it there. So you are reducing the risk. So that will not transmit to the other people at home. So for doctors like us, it's a very, because we are the first frontline warriors in this, and we are too much exposed to this. But there is no way, we are taking our own precautions. And it can be done at home also, it's not pretty bad. So most important thing is that make sure that whatever the clothes, hankies, And then if you are able to get some sanitizer in terms, like there are some ultraviolet rays boxes that are available. So your keychains, your rings, your chains, your watches, when you come into the home, just put them there first. So if they're kept under that ultraviolet rays, it may reduce the risk. Soap water will reduce the risk. Bathing will definitely help you, because ultimately after you have traveled, we don't know where it has been stuck. So that's going to help you. It's not necessary that you should take a Savlon bath, or you should put a Dettol in your bucket in the water and take bath. No, it's not needed. What's needed is that just simple soap is enough that will clean it. So this is one way. So entry point is important. Coming home, the food particles which you're able to get, how you're able to wash, that is important. Vegetables, fruits, you can take a bowl of water and you can put what we call as vinegar. If anybody has vinegar at home, or if you don't have it, please buy it from outside. Put vinegar and dip these fruits and vegetables into that and take it. Nothing survives an acid. Mark my words. There is nothing that grows on salt. Even if you have salt water, if you have even salt water, you can just dip those vegetables and fruits in that, just 2-3 dips and take it out and wash it. It is going to solve your problem. So this is important in terms of how you'll be able to reduce the risk at home. Okay? And other part is that, now how do we get ready for the next step? God forbid if anything happens to anybody. How are we going to go about that? The time is going to come when you will require space in your own building, because the hospitals are closed, there are no rooms, there are no beds, there are no oxygen cylinders. You will be just taking the patient and running from one hospital to the other. So don't fall into that trap. What could be done here? If you have a club, make use of the clubhouse. If you have a gym, make that as a gym, as a quarantine space. So quarantine process should start right from now. Please talk to your society, your welfare association, that everything should be put in protocol right away, that quarantine space is required now. Please identify it as early as possible. Create a team who will be able to monitor this. You will be requiring volunteers in the future. How you are going to guide them? Because one, do not be under the impression that, if I go and serve this person, I may get infected. I am telling you, everyone is going to be affected. There is not a single soul on this earth who is not going to be affected without COVID. It is going to reach everybody. So we doctors are facing every day. So are we not at the risk? We have been seeing this from January. We had people who traveled from outside and came and met us. We had people whom we shook hands not knowing that these things have been happening. So some part of the immunity we have already gained. It started in January, but still now, the people whom we have as regular patients who are not able to follow the right discipline of how to prevent their cough and sneezes, they do not know how to do it. They still openly, when you talk to them, when you tell them to open your mouth, they cough like that. So these things need to be taught to the people in mind that you are going to spread it like this. So if you have to cough, make sure that you cough it in your hands. People are putting the mask. So mask is a very good barrier. You don't have to buy the most sophisticated N95 mask. That is only for doctors who are in close contact with the established convict cases. Not everybody needs to buy N95. It's not that just because you have money that is going to save you. No, money is not going to save you now. What is going to save you is only 3 things. One is your own self-discipline. Second is the immunity that you have got from your parents when you were born, and how you have kept that immunity now through the natural environment of living. And the most third important point is that your spiritual connect with God, because we don't have a cure for it as of now. We are trying hard, but we don't have it. So when we are in such an unprecedented times and we have no clues to go about, it becomes all more mandatory that we all put our minds together, that how to help each other now, how to reduce the risk. Why New Zealand now is COVID free? Because everybody took it as a responsibility. Here you need to be more responsible than anything else. If you are not going to take the responsibility, no home is safe. I warn you, no home is safe from COVID-19. Some way or the other, out of your lack of ignorance, or out of your carelessness or your lawlessness, you are going to bring it home. It is going to reach everybody. And if it reaches everybody, so everybody is in the same problem. Now nobody can identify that, I am different from you and you are different from me. No, it's going to reach everybody. So now how best we can put our efforts to create quarantine stations, how we are going to create a team that is going to volunteer it. If suppose somebody is falling very sick after being volunteering, he can go into a 14 days quarantine here only. He can stay in his room, in his home. So the next batch of the people who have not been affected, they can take over. Because somewhere you need to create how we have the makeshift hospitals. So what are the requisites to make a makeshift hospital within a society? Is a quarantine space. Secondly, oxygen cylinders, pulse oximeters, certain medication that can be given and managed at here only. If we can get some nurses, which is now a top priority, which everywhere it's a huge demand. We are also suffering from. We are doing those works with the sisters too, because there are not many, and many are also fearing for their life that they also may get infected. But I am saying that leave the fears. Definitely everybody is going to get infected, but we need to act. That is important. By acting, you're going to save so many other people. If you act diligently, you're going to save the lives of many people. The calamity which happened in US, it happened in Italy and many of the major European countries was because people were very careless. They were not understanding their own responsibility. Why it happened in Germany? Why so fast they were able to get it in China? Because they all disciplined their mind. They got into themselves that yes, I'm also going to be part of it. Now how am I going to do it? So quarantine space, buying pulse oximeters, buying oxygen cylinders, and basic medicine which I will write and give it to you, that these are the medicine that can be given at home itself. You don't have to run, you don't have to this one. This is a straightforward protocol that will be given by the ICMR. But people are not out of ignorance, just grab through the WhatsApp knowledge and through the Google information are taking medicines. It's not mandatory. The most important thing is that do not take medicines until the symptoms happen.
Doctor, there's one question on that on the chat. Is it mandatory to take multivitamins with our regular food?
No, I don't think so. It's required. Your natural food itself is going to give you good amount of vitamins which you are having. That's why I said fruits are important. You don't need to take anything extra. All those extra are needed for those people who do not have a proper diet. For elderly people who cannot eat properly, their appetite is less. They cannot consume as we are consuming. So those are the people they require. The elderly, not everybody. There is no such rule that everybody should take vitamins and improve the immunity. I already said the best way to improve immunity is sunlight. Nothing beyond that. Make sure that you sit in the sunlight. So important. Do not apply oil and cream that my skin is going to change. It's not going to go through. You may be thinking that I may take the sunlight through the window that is coming through the glass. No, it will be filtered. Make sure that you sit in the sunlight properly, exposing only hands and feet for 10 minutes.
I heard a doctor saying that maybe vitamin C helps you a lot to cook.
Yeah, there is no doubt about it. Vitamin C helps, but you don't need to take extra vitamin C. Every cooking in the South Indian food has tamarind. I don't think we need extra vitamin C. So it's already there in our foods. We are only looking at things. You are just increasing the sales out of anxiety. You don't require it. If you have just one orange is enough for you. If you have one Mosambi is enough for you. If you have one half piece of amla is enough for you. Enough vitamin 2. If you have one amla, the vitamin C requirement for 1 week is over. You don't need to take extra.
Sir, because of our office shifts, we will not be able to wake up in the morning. As you said, 6 to 7 or 7 to 9 is the right time for sunlight and all.
Yeah.
People who can't wake up in the morning, and what is the best time in the evening where they can?
The best time is when they are having their off. At least something is better than nothing. You cannot change the environment. Though it has been said that how far we are from the equator that all matters. Suppose if you're very close to the equator, you may not require much, but you're far from the equator. So that's where the exposure is important at that particular time. See, the ultraviolet rays that are required to trigger the system. Once the sunlight touches your skin, by God's grace, the triggers mechanism in the kidney and the liver. They are the one that will help you to produce vitamin D. It's just a switch on, but it has to be touching the skin. the right wavelength of the ultraviolet rays. If you go beyond that, it may darken your skin. Dark people may need to sit for a longer period of time. For people who are dark skin, they may need to sit for a long time. Say at least 10 minutes more or 30 minutes more. But without that, without exposing yourself to sunlight, at least if you're getting a chance to sit on Saturday and Sunday, that's more than enough. I don't think you need to sit every day. But make sure that you sit. See, the most important thing with low vitamin D is, if you have low vitamin D, the chances of having a very low immune. And when you have a low immune, you're more prone for diseases. So that's one thing. Especially for the elderly people, why so many people suffering from osteoarthritis? Okay, the Britishers, you know how about the Britishers? There are two good things that happened with the Britishers. When they left our country, they gave us two beautiful gifts. One is they left the throne for us.
One is the dishes.
No, they left the throne for us to run our own government. And second, they gave us the toilet seats. And we all became very comfortable with that. So most of the elderly people, if you tell them to sit on the ground and wake up, no. Way down our ancestors, if you look at them, they used to sit and get up and sit and get up. How is it? What is that? Because the environment of the home was so friendly, eco-friendly. They had the wind coming into their homes, they had the sunlight directly coming into their homes, and they had a lot of spaces in between. So the whole aspect of eco-friendly living with the nature was there at that time. But this time, we are locked up into bricks. We are locked up with our own luxuries.
Anything we need to do?
For this type of community, what will be the budget, minimum budget we require to procure all those things?
See, I personally feel, I do not know what are the exact population of this. No, population, exact population.
This is 400 plus families.
How many families?
400 plus.
Okay, so I would feel to start with, let us take only 2 oxygenators that will help us. And each oxygenator is almost around 42 to 45,000 rupees. But if you take a one with a 10-liter one, don't take that 5-liter, because the demand may increase over a period of time. I am sure that 2 are not going to help in the future, but you may require 4 or 6, because that's how it is. Now what we are able to see, the present scenario, it's pretty bad. That in terms that even if you need an oxygen cylinder, people are not ready to give it to you. Even if those, if you want to hire it, they're not ready to take it back, because they know it that is being used for COVID patients, and the risk of them taking it back, and they will also get infected. So I personally feel, you please buy it. That is the most important thing. At least 2 incubators. Hardly cost around 45,000.
2 incubators.
2 oxygenators. Oxygen concentrators actually.
Oxygen concentrators. Okay.
And pulse oximeters, I think you can call to a vendor, and I can give the number of that vendor, so that you take a bulk buy, especially every home where elderly people are living. So it's going to be mandatory. So this device is so important, so crucial. At least it will give you a clue that whether you need to go to the hospital or you need to come to the quarantine area. So that will help you. And then quarantine area, how you are able to, you need to even have the food services to be given to them. So, and then the hygiene part of it, that how the disposals are going to be. So you need to be trained on that front. All the volunteers who are going to take care of those, we will guide them accordingly. So how they are supposed to dispose of the things and how the hygiene has to be maintained. So that's all.
Can we make a list what is necessary for these things, what to be done?
List of.
Yeah, I give the list, that is important. But important thing is that the fund who's going to take the responsibility has to oversee all these things. There must be a checklist every day. Though whether it's working, not working, we need to check it on. Because at the time of crisis, if it's not working, you are going to trust the supervisor. So make sure that those things are already kept in place, and every day they are routinized, and once you keep checking them, so it will help you. But
So for that, do you need PPE kits also for volunteers, or?
Yes, of course you will need. If you are coming in close contact with a person who is already infected, you definitely need to wear a mask, N95 mask. Because we have already quarantined. What I said is the most confirmed cases. The confirmed cases, even if you have confirmed cases, no hospital is ready to take it now. Unless until the host hospital is made into a COVID hospital, which is going to happen now. The transition is going to take soon. Every hospital is going to become a COVID hospital. You please mind it. I'm not just predicting things out of the blue, but this is what we are seeing. The case scenario, the ground reality is that every hospital is going to become a COVID-19 hospital. Most of the other departments will stop functioning because interventions cannot be done on a COVID patient because the risk of transferring to the doctors will be very high. So keeping that in mind, the hospitals are going to increase with COVID-19.
So one more question. Can you please cover a bit on what type of fitness activities we can do without coming out?
Okay, so I mean, there are many things which you can do. It all applies that what suits you best. If you look at the early morning walkers, I've been observing, they're not very happy people. If you look at the faces, it looks like the doctor's prescription is stuck on their face. Okay. So what I say is that it's all about hormones and harmony. How you allow the good chemicals within your system to work. If you allow the good chemicals to come into play, your immune system is boosted. That's how you're protected. There are many simple ways which you can do. I can show you some few exercises which anybody can do. From all age, elderly, with conditions if they're not able to move. I can show you some exercises. You want to see those exercises?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to
वो नीचे ना ओनली फेस ऐसा आ रहा है ना उसमें
the roof is in. It's not-
It's good.
तो इसलिए
Okay. So I'm going to show you some very simple exercise which I was able to convince my patients to do it. Because see, being a dermatologist, I've been able to understand that what I always used to blame my patients, by telling them that you're not doing this, that's why this is happening. You're not doing that, that's why this is happening. But I never for once got into the shoes of these people to understand what is not making them do it. Why are they feeling that? So then I understood that each person has their own choices, their own preferences. You cannot push somebody something down their throat unnecessarily, whether they like it or not. You may like coffee, I may like the tea. I cannot say, no, you take this from that. It doesn't make sense. So the best way to get a good compliance is that let us understand that what they like the most, how comfortable they are in doing things. So understanding that, especially for the elderly people, for the fat people, for obese people, I designed this sort of a workout which anybody can do. It hardly requires 5-10 minutes. You can have sessions sitting in front of the TV. You can call your neighbors and sit. But now in this part of the crisis, I want you to do it at home alone. Okay? So there are 4 exercises for the legs. There are 4 exercises for the hands. And there are 2 breathing techniques which I'm going to show you. So the 4 exercises for the legs. The first exercise for the legs is just be relaxed. Take a chair which has a handle and put your feet one feet apart and keep your hands like this. Okay? And then just tap. Just put your hands on forearms on your legs and keep tapping. So this is the first step. Once you have got used to it, first exercise. The second exercise is you need to come little to the edge of the chair and then on your toes. Okay? Now you're going to just do on your toes. Okay? So you start with 10, 50 is the target. You should reach 50, that's important. So you start like this. This is the second exercise. The third exercise is walking. Now you will say, doctor, how do I walk while sitting? You can. Just hold on to your chair. So simple. Anybody can do it. Okay? If you look at these exercises, every part of your body will move. What you're able to burn in 2 kilometers of your walking, you will just be able to do it in 5 to 10 minutes of your sitting exercise. So this is so simple it is. So you don't even have to put too much of pressure on your legs. This is how it's going to be. It's simple scheme. But elderly people, please wear shoes and do it. So it's a good rub. If they're having diabetes and they're not able to feel the sensation, they may have friction blends. Because if the rub is not going, or they may get a wound there, they may not realize. So make sure that they wear shoes and do it, or let them do it on a carpet, that will be fine. But shoes is always better. Now the third exercise is that you need to move your hips too. So how are you going to do that? Just simply sit there, relax, okay? Just lift your knee up, take your left hand and touch your calf muscle. You see? Even your hips move. Even the most obese person will be able to move this. Okay? So I repeat. 4 exercises for the legs. The first is the tapping, then tapping on your toes, then walking, and then for the hip. Even this I recommend to all the IT professionals because they sleep for long hours. At least for 5 minutes if they do this, it's going to change the whole proposition. They're not going to get too tired. They're going to improve the immune, they're going to have good circulation. Now, the second exercise is for the arms. There are 4 exercises for the arms. How you do it? You remember the time when you were in your schools and you had the first period was called the PT period. And the PT period was so simple. So just be relaxed. Just stretch out your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. So simple. Anybody can do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is one exercise. The second exercise is that you need to put your palms up, okay, and then stretch out right to your shoulder level. So simple. Like just have to keep like this. Don't have to keep your body tight and just be relaxed. Just stretch it out like this. Don't fold like this and begin. 1, 2, fold. Straighten. But when you are coming down, put your palms down and begin up. This is for undocking. Because many of the elderly people are suffering from periodic arthritis. They're not able to lift their hands up. They're not able to, because those were the times when you used to be so happy and then now times have become so sad that you're really praying like this one. Then that's why the Almighty is helping us only with this one. Okay? So make sure that you have a total movement. So that's important. So the second exercise, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the third exercise is just need to bring your fist to your face. It's not for boxing, but it will help you how you can go about with rowing exercises. How you can have a full rotation of your shoulders. Watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All these upper limb exercises, start with 10, make sure that you reach to 50. That's the target. Okay? So like this. So now reverse rowing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the reverse row. So I again tell you the hand exercise. Very simple. First exercise, straighten out. 2, 3, 4. Second, keep your palm straight out. Hold it. Open it. Turn upside down and bring it down. Rowing exercise front and rowing exercises back. So this is going to help you. Okay. Now 2 breathing techniques. So simple. If you find the range, now how the lungs are going to be affected. How the heart is going to be pumped. Just watch this, very simple. What you need to do is that you just take one finger and block one nostril. Okay? Take your hand and keep it on your tummy. Okay? And cough. What happens when you cough? Your stomach moves. Okay? So you need to use this as an exercise. How you can be done, I'll show you. So just block one nostril, open your mouth, okay? And then you breathe from your mouth. Okay, and push through your tummy and throw it through the nostril. So it's so simple. So once you practice, you will get this. It's called sniffing. So when you sniff, you are able to move your diaphragm up. You're pushing your stomach, you're pushing your diaphragm up, and your lungs are being exercised. So simple. Okay, the same thing on the opposite side. Just block this nostril, put your hand, try to cough first. So you know the tummy is moving in. And then so once you get the practice, then okay. Now the second breathing exercise. Now how do my spine move? How do I bring blood to my brain? So simple. Another one. Just relax, keep your body relaxed. Okay? Just sit upright. Okay? Take a deep breath. Okay? Open your mouth or you can breathe through your nose. Close your mouth and breathe through your nostrils. Hold it for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Okay? And then go down. Okay? Exhaling. Just throw everything out of your lungs and reach this level. So when you reach this level, close your mouth, breathe from your nostrils and come through. So I'll show you how it is done. Okay? Close your mouth, breathe through your nostril and come up. Close your mouth, breathe through your nostril and come up. So simple. Anybody can do it. So in this exercise, almost every part of your body has been. There's not one part of your body that is not. Every part of your body has received the circulation. So anybody can do it. It's recommended for all. But do it with a smile.
Yeah.
And enjoy it. And enjoy it. Don't think it's so strenuous. No. Start with baby steps. You don't have to go too hard. If you're able to lift even little also, it's okay, fine. But just start it off. So then you'll get the mobility. Because once the joints are mobilized, then it's easy. They're easy to move. So that's important.
Sir, I have two questions.
Yeah.
One is, the question is that some people have sinus, like I have sinus. So one of my nasal passages are always kind of 70% times blocked.
Okay.
So this breathing is becomes difficult for me.
Yeah.
Although
Yeah, I would advise that before you go on to, if you find that this sort of a problem with it for quite long, most importantly is that you take a pure steam inhalation.
steam in it.
Pure steam.
Pure steam.
Don't add any additives. The moment you add any additives like they're using the
Carval.
they're using Vicks, Xantubam, and Carval Plus or something. You're causing irritation to your nasal because that's where the secretions will come in again and they will choke it up. Pure steam is the best thing.
Okay.
So at least before you start your exercise, take a pure steam inhalation and then you can do it.
Second question is, we talked about a lot of physical strength and medicines preparedness. There's a different kind of preparedness we need to, and there's a lot of panic. There's a panic outside, there's nothing, and COVID situation. So, and with kids in house, we all kind of start torturing ourselves.
Okay.
And that mental medicine is sometimes very unstable. How do you suggest that we
Yeah. See, the most important thing is that your body has been designed. It's the most wonderful miracle of God. You need to understand that. Why I'm telling you that? Just imagine two body fluids mixing and being in the womb, and over a period of 9 months, a full-grown baby is born. Just two chemicals mixing. Okay? And then a baby is born, a young boy. A baby is born. The baby grows into a small boy, a big boy, adolescent, an adult, and an old man. Okay? How is it possible for a thing like this to traverse time, go through all the difficulties of seasons, climate changes, hostilities, sadness, happiness, and accidents, losing property, losing love, so many things. On the way you're developing certain diseases. Okay? Some diseases you carry for a period of time, some diseases are dropped, some diseases are carried till the time you are there, timeless time. So everybody is on a different time zone. So till the timeless time. So he may carry the disease till 90 years, but he will not die of it. He will die of some other cause. How is it possible for a small thing from here to transit so much of time and reach to 90, 80 years? It's only because of a built-in system. The built-in system is what takes you from here till there. And how friendly you become with the environment. So it is all within ourselves. It's all chemicals. If you want to be sad, you are allowing all the sad chemicals to come into you. And these sad chemicals are the ones that are going to cause disease. If you are happy, you are allowing all the good hormones to come into you, which are protective in nature. They're going to protect your system, they're going to protect your organs, they're going to keep you disease free. But for that, you need a good smile. Everything should be taken with a smile. Because every aspect of life is through a destined station. In this particular station, this is definitely going to happen. Unless and until some divine intervention takes place. But that's what God has designed it for you. That you will go through these stations, you will face happiness, you will face losses, you will have accidents, you will have unnecessary problems. You never walk that way, but still some problems come on to you. What you call in tennis, they say, unforced error. Okay? So those are things, they're all part of life. The best way is take life as it comes, leave it as it goes. That's the best way to live. And thank every day when you get up in the morning, because you were sleeping dead. So beautiful the miracle of God works in the night. Why I'm telling you this is so important is that when you're sleeping and when you're dead sleeping, there is a gland in the middle of the brain. I'll tell you how beautifully it works. Why I'm telling you the chemicals are so important. In the middle of the brain there is a gland called the pineal gland. What it does in the night is, it is like you're put on an automated system. Like, they do some manual checking in the aircraft, and after that they leave it on an automatic mode. The whole system when you're sleeping dead is on an automatic mode. For every reaction which we have, suppose if you're afraid, our body straight away goes into panic mode. So you start sweating. If I want to sweat, can I sweat? No, I cannot. That's where my automatic system is coming into play. So in the night, when you're sleeping dead, the gland in the middle of the brain sends its supervisors. These are the ones who go survey inside. You see, it's a war out there throughout the day. The brain is fighting with the lungs are fighting with the brain, the kidneys are fighting with the liver is fighting with the bone, the muscles and everything. It's a whole Mahabharata inside. Okay? So many things are going on. What you do when you get hurt outside, when you have a cut, you put your finger there and you hold it and you apply some solution and you find your way. What are you going to do for the internal injuries that have been happening every day? There are almost around 3.5 billion of cells fighting with each other. And that accidents happen. And when accidents happen, they manifest as disease. So sleep is very important. Why I tell you sleep is important? Just imagine if the world was not without light, without night. Every day we would have killed each other. We wouldn't have been able to tolerate each other. So someday God wanted to give you that, the peace of feeling that one day you're going to come back to me. Suppose if God told Adam in the beginning itself that Adam, I created you, now I'm going to call you back. Will Adam would have loved what God had created? Adam would have been just worried what is going to happen next moment. He wouldn't have been able to pray, to understand why I was gifted this life. So God said, no. If my creation understand that life is going to be so short, and I'm going to call him anytime. If he lives in that fear, he's not going to enjoy what I created for him. He'll always live in constant fear. So for that, he gave a blessing which is called sleep. So in this sleep, what happens? In the night when you're sleeping, the pineal gland will send its supervisors to find out where the injuries are happening. Where, some things have got miscalculated. And this information is passed on to the brain in the night. The brain creates a priority list. No. The brain is well informed about this because the brain says, no, this man gets up in the morning and he walks to the temple. Suppose if I don't repair his leg, he will not do that activity. So the brain creates that sort of a priority list. The priority list is waited for some time to understand which part should be repaired first. And then they get a signal. Once by God's grace the signal comes, no, the priority list is changed. No, he should not go tomorrow. If he goes tomorrow, he may meet with an accident. So let him be with that at home. This is how the chemicals work. So then the chemical is released. So they go repair the other things which are important. So the repairing work is done through the melatonin hormone. So every day there's a wear and tear and there's a repair every day. That's why you're able to transfer from here to there. How will you travel? A small baby being born going on to 80, 90 years. So some thought should come to us that why it's happening. So this is the best miracle of God which you have. Allow your own body to each shirt will not fit each other. You have small size, you have mini XL, you have XL, you have large. Each one is made with a different gene. And you have the capability within you. You should allow that to happen. We are not allowing, we are not triggering it. We are always living with a sense of responsibility. The helmet of responsibility is always there on your head. You are worried about somebody. You need not be. If he has to walk, he will walk. If he falls, he will get up and walk. You're worried about your child, what is going to happen? You're worried about the unforeseen enemies. No, let them live. Let them live. Because the way you behave with your children, the same way they would adapt to this feeling. my father used to always say me this. He's not exploring any other ways, not finding alternatives.
He has a
I
question.
have two questions.
Please,
So, first is for the kids. So, as they are not coming out, I see a lot of kids there. But from personal reasons, I think that I should not bring my kid to more prone areas like in common. So, what is the thing that we can do for them? The exercises? Or
See, as of now, we do not know who the asymptomatic carriers are.
Correct.
So please avoid a foreign contact.
That is what I'm
A
trying.
foreign contact in terms that suppose if this is my family, I need not bring it close to the other family.
Mhm.
I need to keep my children little away from them. But it's a very difficult task. It's not going to happen. These minds are not tuned to it.
Yeah.
Children are not going to be tuned to it. That's why the schools are closed. You know that? Because we will not be able to inculcate the process. This inculcation of the process should happen long back, like how you have in Japan. Studies are not started till 6th standard. The first act of their discipline in the first class is that you need to sit on the chairs, you need to get up and stand in the line to take your food. Then you are supposed to take your vessels and wash it and keep it in the right place. It's all disciplining. They don't have any studies right from A, B, C, maths, all the nonsense is not there. They have what you call behavioral modification. They have adapted to that. For us it will take time. But how best you will go about with your children is that don't stop them. When you stop them, you are creating agony not only for them but for yourself too. Because you have lost the patience. You are not understanding that his brain is reading at a different level. Your brain is matured. And you need to come down to that level to explain to him, boss, this is not this is this, like this.
I'm doing this because I'm very afraid for him. So, it's so
I
small, the
understand.
immunity levels are really low.
No, I understand. Best way to let their immunity come, let them play, give them physical activity, make them sit in the sunlight.
Okay.
There's no better way than that. Don't worry about the food everybody is having. See, we are above the the poor society where they can't even afford to buy an egg.
Correct.
At least in a week, at least you're giving an egg. You're giving fruits, you're giving good of the cereals and all that. So don't worry about that. But what is lacking here is that our conservative minds in terms that nothing should happen to my kids. You're burdening yourself, you're stressing yourself, and allowing the bad chemicals to come into play. And that's where the most suffering is going to be. Let them do it. Nothing is going to happen. The chances are
No,
using
COVID
sanitizers
times.
and all our kids, is it safe? Kind of.
kids, they don't need to worry. Unless and until they are going to a person who is infected.
So you don't know who is infected or
That's
not.
right.
Maybe they.
No, that's what I told you. You need to understand the asymptom. You need to understand the symptom. If they're having symptoms of fever, if they're having symptoms which are elucidated, keep them away from them. Don't let your children go into those people. Even at home, if your elderly people are coughing, keep them in the room. Don't allow your children to go there.
I have a second question towards this because yes, right now there are so many things in immunity boosters. Like in Ayurveda, they have herbal things like tulsi extract and giloy extract. Are these things working or are these things suggested?
No, I will tell you. See, most important thing is that love to live with your own environment. And the best way to live with your environment is that you need to have those bacteria coming from the soil into your body. And there are two good bacteria that come from the soil, from to us. One is the food source, is the probiotics. You know how your immune is based? Your immune is not from your brain, heart, or no, it's from your gut. It's from your gut. And for your gut to remain good, your system should be good. For that, you need to have good bacteria. They're the pre and the probiotics. They are the best wealth. And in India, it's a boon for us. We get it in two important foods. One is the yogurt. Yogurt. Not the one that is bought from outside and kept in the fridge and consumed. No. That will cause some amount of acidity because some amount of preservative is used, some amount of engineering is done.
Correct.
Okay. So the best way would be make it at home itself.
Home yogurt.
Not in the fridge, outside. Set it in a bowl or set it in a mud, bowl. And then by afternoon or evening, you need to consume it. Not to be kept overnight in the fridge and then consume it. It doesn't work. It will increase the acidity. So the best is the yogurt. The second part is that is your own homemade South Indian idli. Italy, what do we say? Idli. That's the best source.
Homemade.
At least in a week, 2 to 3 times, make it mandatory in your home. Feed the kids also. Kids, you cannot bore them, that's just like a lump of, white rice, but make it more attractive.
Okay.
Put some boiled vegetables into it, put some cashew nuts into it. They will love to eat it. So you cannot give them the same recipe all the way. We ourselves are so worried. We are waiting when the lockdown will be open, which restaurant to go. So that's how we have been doing. So kids also don't make it mandatory that he should eat only this. Don't force the kids. If he's not eating at that time, forget about it. Take him for a walk. Tire him out. He will come back and say, give me food.
Super.
We are just, at that moment only, we want everything to happen so that even the ladies are getting too impatient with the kids. In terms that, I have made it now, he should have it. It's hot, if I made it, he should have it. If he doesn't have it now, he's not immune to that. They're so paranoid. I've gone to so many schools to give lectures on this front. How important behavioral modification. The first important thing is how the parents should behave, how they should interact with the children. The biggest gift which we have is the gift of communication, which we fail to do it. We don't listen to them. If the kid comes to you and talking and you say, wait, the ball is coming, wait. That's not the way to behave. This is going to repeat throughout the day. But this child came with something to tell you. Give time to him, listen to him. The things will change. If you don't have the communication with your child, you're going to be more in problem because over a period of time he's going to maintain a distance. And then the same child is going to take advice. If he gets a best friend in his life, well and good. But if he's got some friend with a different mindset, he's going to suffer because he will not believe him. So let's not let things go to that extent, but make sure that the kids are communicated well. For a moment, stop everything for them. I personally feel that stop everything in the world for them. Why this lockdown had come down is because God wanted you to realize that you need to spend time with your family. He doesn't want you to come and pray also. He's closed down the churches, temples and mosques. He's saying be with your family. This is what I'm giving you. The genes which come, the positive energy will come from your own home, not from outside. The outside is all negative. Everything is in negative perspective. But what is there is with your own positivity which you have from your own blood, with your own living. That's why you have been destined to live like a tree. You have your own family, then the children come, then it goes on like a chain. So if now the biggest problem is that we're so tired with the works, we don't find time to spend time with the elderlies. You need to go back to your parents. You need to go back to your relatives. No matter what, everybody has disputes in their families. But you cannot keep the grievance. It's all over. It was over. It had to happen. It was destined. He had to hurt me. He abused me. He irritated me. But that's okay. But if I meet him again next time, how good I am to him, because that's where I'm going to get my positivity. I cannot carry his baggage, plus I carry my own baggage of agony in my mind. I'm not going to be happy at all. Open your hearts and mind. Forgive everything. This is the time to realize. The introspection time has been given to you to realize that how you need to change yourself. This is the best time to modify your behavior. How best you could live happily, how you best live with your people whom you have not listened, people who you appreciate that they are doing so much of work for you. You never even realize it. Just buying one particular gift for one day and forgetting about it is not going to solve the problem. It's an everyday Thanksgiving to the one you love. Every day, patting, shaking hand, putting arms around them. These are all going to help you. These are all positive energy.
We'll wind up the Zoom call. Last few words for everyone.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Here, last few words.
Yeah, we are closing, so
Okay.
closing notes.
Yeah, closing notes.
Yeah.
Fine. So, thank you so much for having blessed me with this opportunity. I would love to interact further, but because keeping in time and everybody has a Sunday and would like to spend time with their families, so we will let you take too much of your time. But my advice is that please stay safe and stay home. That's important. That's my main message which I'm giving to you. The outside scenario is too bad. You are not facing the ground reality, which I do every day. I have people carrying lakhs of rupees waiting outside my hospital and asking for oxygen. Can you believe it? How pathetic the situation is. We are not able to offer those sort of services to those people. So here, your money is not going to work. Your contacts are not going to work. What is going to work is very important. How you help yourself. In your times of agony, you are only suffering. I have a patient in the hospital. I had a priest who got a severe spinal pain. Just close this. Why I'm telling you that this information is so important. How things can change. It's not medicines. It is not medicines. It is not the medicine that is going to give you cure for this. This priest had come to me and he was there for some pain and he had to show to the spinal surgeon. I was referred for a diabetic problem, so I was taking care of his diabetes. When I went and saw him, he was in excruciating pain. So when I asked him that, what's wrong with you? He said, this pain is unbearable. It's killing me. Every day it's killing me. I don't know why God has done this to me. I have been helping so many people. I'm a priest. I listen to so many people. I have helped so many people, guided them. But why this suffering? You know? So this was his contention. And I said, fine, sir, you want to become all right? He said, yes, give me what it is. Give me some medicine. Give me an injection. I said, no, sir, I don't have an injection or a drug for this. I have a very simple solution for this. Guess what? I said, in your time of agony, in your time of pain, at that time, if you had to change your mindset of praying in terms by saying, oh God, definitely this has come from you, and only you who's going to take this pain away. But there may be people who are suffering more than me over here. Please have your mercies on them and then have your mercy on me. Just a simple thought will change. And believe me, the next day morning when I went and saw the priest, he was sitting on his chair. And I told him that you please sit on the wheelchair and go around. He said, I did that yesterday. When you told me that the people who are suffering more over here, I saw their pains. I saw their suffering. At least he's given me a cure for my problem. For them, there's no cure. So that changes the mindset. Always hope good for others. It's not you and you alone. No. We have been made, this world is for us. We all need to live happily. We need to help each other. That's how the way we are, human species. The best species on earth by God. I'm telling you. Just share your happiness. That's what's going to happen. No doctors are required for